Alright, so Boruto Two Blue Vortex Chapter 7 is here, and Boruto and Mitsuki finally face off. One of the most anticipated fights that we were looking forward to during the time skip. Now that Boruto is a rogue and is being hunted by everybody, we kind of want to know what is interaction going to look like between Boruto and Mitsuki, because as you know, Boruto is Mitsuki's son, and they kind of bring that topic back up in this chapter after their fight. But this fight went about as expected as most people expected it to. I mean, Boruto and Mitsuki fight out a little bit. Boruto defeats him with ease and then basically talks him out of believing what he believes and makes him question himself even more. So, I mean, just jumping into this, Mitsuki attacks Boruto, and we see Boruto once again utilizing the flying Rasen jutsu against Mitsuki, showing his versatility with the jutsu. And instead of being like Minato and using that one singular kunai, he kind of puts it on different objects such as a shuriken here and is able to transport to it. And Mitsuki even points out something here, saying that I know that you drove off Code. I know that I'm not as strong as Code or Kawaki. And he's bringing this stuff up, and Boruto's like, so why are you even fighting me in the first place? And that statement kind of tells us that Boruto is in a league in his own. If he was able to drive off Code, and Mitsuki saying that I don't even think that Kawaki can stand up to you, I'm really interested to see how moving forward, how Kawaki's power level progresses and is even able to match Boruto's power level. I imagine that these new villains we'll talk about at the end of this are going to impact the story and maybe even give Kawaki another power boost. But the fight goes on, and Mitsuki shows off some of his new techniques, such as the snake clones. I mean, the fight goes about as expected. There's a lightning clash, and then at the end of the fight, Boruto puts a sword to his neck and says, you did not come here to die. You actually came here for something else, to sort of confirm what's been messing with your brain this whole time. And he says that the sun that had been illuminating you lost its radiance at some point. Isn't that what you felt? And here's the thing with the omnipotence. The omnipotence is strong. The omnipotence is affecting people's memories, but also if you're just mean like Kawaki's being, I don't think the omnipotence can overwrite those kind of behaviors. And the way Boruto sort of explains it is that you kind of have to come to the conclusion yourself for the omnipotence to not have as much an effect on you. And kind of skipping forward a little bit, we'll talk about in just a second, but the way he sort of explains to Shikamaru is, if I explain these certain aspects of the omnipotence to you, you're just going to forget it. You're just going to forget everything I said to you. It even brings up that Sarada and Sumire have told you this multiple times. So the omnipotence is constantly overriding any sort of doubt against the current genjutsu that's covering the world. So that's kind of what's happening here. And you can see characters like Mitsuki and Shikamaru who are coming to this realization themselves, quote unquote. I mean, Shikamaru only really started having doubts after he heard Amato, but Mitsuki has been having doubts due to changes in what he thought was his son's behavior. So very interesting for how the omnipotence is working and just how strong this jutsu is. But Boruto straight up explains that I'm your son, the snake isn't attacking me, and Naruto Uzumaki is alive. So the fight kind of ends there, and Mitsuki is just so confused and has no idea what's happening. But there's some interesting dialogue here where Boruto is essentially saying that, like I said before, Lord Senf is alive, and I don't really have any intention of killing Kawaki. He's obviously not a bad guy, and I think Boruto has to play this role of being a rogue ninja. But I think over time, the citizens of Leaf Village are going to recognize all these interactions with Boruto have been quite peaceful in nature. He hasn't attacked anyone out of spite. He hasn't tried to hurt anybody. Even in this fight with Mitsuki, he stood still, didn't even try to escape. So I think Boruto's actions and his nature are going to be a big part here in how people view him with the omnipotence. Now, it's not going to be everybody, right? It's going to be a slow process, but over time, characters like Mitsuki are slowly going to be convinced. And there's something interesting I want to point out too. When he says that Naruto is alive, he points out that his wife is alive too. He doesn't say his mother, because if he says my mother, that's going to have some sort of effect on the omnipotence, and it's going against what the omnipotence is pushing. Because in the omnipotence, Kawaki's mother is Hinata, correct? So if he says my mother, that kind of directly goes against that statement, and will further affect the omnipotents. So he doesn't want their memories to be affected in that way, and wants them to remember the conversation that they're having right now, which I think is very interesting to how he even understands this and is being very careful in his wording when he talks to people. And yeah, Boruto even reinforces the saying that you don't have to try to figure out how the omnipotence actually works because you're going to forget about it anyway. And referring back to what I was referring to when Sarada and Sumire had already told him about the omnipotence and how everything was being altered previously. So, kind of saying that this is not going to stick to your memory. It's going to fade over time. And you just kind of need to trust that Kawaki and I switched places without any proof in order to believe it. And Shikamaru brings up a good point, which is what Naruto couldn't do, right? He says, okay, so how come you don't just kill Kawaki, right? I don't think that's really a solution in this case, because killing Kawaki, I don't think really solves the issue, right? Naruto's still going to be captured. Even if Boruto did do that, it's not going to be beneficial for anybody. We need Kawaki alive, and we need him to be happy in order for this whole thing to blow over. I think that Boruto may not have this actually happen because we know how dark this story is turning, and I think he may have to end up killing Kawaki in the end, but kind of hoping for story's sake and kind of how Kawaki progresses, that Kawaki does get the help he needs, because Kawaki is severely affected by his childhood. So I am very interested to see Kawaki turning a new leaf if possible. And he's just kind of accepted that he's going to be a fugitive, and he's just okay with that, which, I mean, come on, no one is touching Boruto like that, so I'm sure he does not care at all. Essentially, the goal now is to making Kawaki feel as comfortable as he can, make him not feel like he's being cornered, and Boruto acting as a rogue ninja. Moving on to the end of this chapter, Jura, the Shinju, is looking for knowledge, and he's reading these books, and he's saying that the more I read, the more questions I have, and it's fascinating. I just need to know more about this, but there's only one person who can answer my question. That's Naruto Uzumaki. Now, if Jura can visit Naruto in that space-time dimension, this kind of confirms a couple of things. That confirms that this person is directly related to Jigen/Ashiki and shares some sort of resemblance to them. If he can't reach that dimension, then that means this is a completely different person. I'm not sure yet what this means, but we'll see probably in the next chapter how this affects things. Now, if Naruto is in that dimension, I don't think he can actually talk, because if you remember, I think it was Boruto Two Blue Vortex chapter 1, Kawaki actually goes to the dimension and the two are kind of suspended in space, that being Naruto and Hinata. So I don't necessarily think he'd be able to get any information if he wanted to anyway. But this chapter was really good. Got some more insight on the omnipotent ability. Doesn't seem as overpowered as we think, but the people who figure it out will figure it out, but it'll be a very slow bunch. And I think, kind of reinforcing some other ideas, is that we're going to get a Boruto civil war at some point between the people who are on Boruto's side going rogue. I think it's going to be Sarada, Mitsuki, Sumire, possibly Shikamaru under the shadows, kind of supporting Boruto, and maybe a couple of others as well. But let me know what you guys thought about the chapter and what you think about this new information regarding the omnipotence, and how this next chapter will go regarding Jura trying to find Naruto and talking with him. But yeah, hope you guys did enjoy. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys later. Peace. Say, so, say, so.